Easy
Oh, we
indeed.
have a TV channel too. I have a TV channel
TV channel.
on this program.
Just keep pulling them out the house. Really. Just keep on.
You know about the directory.
Yeah, I know about the
The
director.
Voice 17104.com. This is Zanetta Wingfield, and you're listening to The Voice 17104.com. The Voice 17104.com.
Hello and welcome. I'd like to invite you to just enjoy the experience that we're about to encounter. I'd like to introduce to you a man of a very humble beginning, a man that was able to overcome the horrific misclassification of special education. A caring man, a man that will encourage you because he's been there and done that. And I'd like to encourage you to keep an open mind and be empowered to change your life. I'd like to present to you a man of men, Richard Utley. Richard Utley.
Good evening, and welcome to another Did You Know? Well, folks, you know this is the year that's going to be very critical to us. And it's going to be very critical, so I will probably mention politics from now to November. I will say something. But the first thing I want to say is I've been telling you that we need to run people for office. And I've been begging you to run. I've been trying to encourage you to run. And so some of you who are thinking about running in this year's election, you're going to have to run in the primary so that you can get in the general election if you so choose to run as a Democrat or Republican. So one of the things that you have to do is have to get a petition. And you have to get that petition, and you have to have so many signatures, and then you turn it in so that you can get on the ballot. So for example, if they tell you that you need 500 signatures, that means you have to have 500 good signatures. So I would recommend anybody running, get more than 500 signatures. Because what about if your petition gets challenged? I've seen so many people that don't have the opportunity to run, but they're great candidates. But if you're not on the ballot, it's kind of hard to elect you. And I don't care what anybody tells you, write-ins are tough. Write-ins are tough. So what I'm basically saying to you, and I'm telling everyone this, so if they say 500, then you might want to try to get 1,000. But you might want to get as much as you can. Don't misunderstand me. Get as much as you can. If you can get 1,300, 1,400. But those of you, if they tell you 500, and all you get is 500, 9/10 out of 10, you're going to get knocked off. Now, why are you going to get knocked off? Well, when you fill it out, you might write not your actual name that's on the voter red, but you might put down your nickname. Or if it tells you what is the precinct where you vote at, what is the township of the borough. It didn't ask you what your mailing address was. It asked you what borough. So what happens a lot of times, you can live in, hypothetically, your address could be Harrisburg, but say you live in Stilton, or say you live in Middletown, or say you live in Pembroke, and you write Harrisburg. Well, that's not right. The other thing I would recommend is to try to get as many signatures that you can have, and make sure you have some good ones. And sometimes you might want to get a street list to verify it up. But I'm telling you now, I've seen too many good candidates get kicked off the ballot. They don't even get on the ballot because they don't have the right signatures. And then you get mad at those people who say, well, that's not fair. Yes, it is. That's the rules. You got to follow the rules. So you better get those petitions ready to rock and roll. And if you're thinking about running, now is the time for you to get those petitions. You know, I'm a big believer of a person that I have always told you that we need to define our history. So what I mean by define our history, we need to tell the story of our history. So I'm encouraging many of you that we have to start teaching our own history. Most ethnic groups do teach the history to their children. We have to do that as well. We can't wait on somebody else to do it. We have to do it. And not only that we have to do it, but we have to talk about the African American experience, whether it's culture, all the things that we might have contributed to, we need to know about. So I'm telling you, that's very important. So you say to me, why do I think those things are important? Why do I think those things are important? Because history repeats itself. You know, I was reading where 84 years ago, a lady, 84 years, you know, she's 97 now. Let me tell you what happened. This lady, she lived somewhere in Fort Worth, Texas. She was 12 years old. Her family bought a house in a neighborhood that they did not want a African American family to live in. And so what did they do? The police stood by as the white mob was wailing bats, gathered outside, and they forced them to leave. That's right, broke their windows, threw stones, smashed the furniture up, and burned their belongings. And the parents took and moved to another neighborhood. And so after 84 years, she's finally getting her just due, because in Texas, the whole thing, Habitat Humanity decide to give her house back. And we need to know those things, because a lot of times those things get hit undercover and we don't think we know about them. So we need to know those things. So we got to tell those things to understand we've come a long way. Well, we got a long way to go. Okay. You know, we always talk about what we want to be, what we might not want to be, and what we think we want to be. So I just want to throw some statistics out to you for you to think. Remember, this program is called Did You Know, which means it's about you thinking. If I asked you, I talk to kids all the time, I say, what do you want to be? They'll say they want to be an NBA player. Well, let me just tell you the statistics on that. 0.03%. 0.03%. Some of you want to be in the NFL. What's those percentages? 0.016. Some of you say you want to be actors. 0.04. Musicians, 0.01. Oh, this is the good one. Lottery tickets. 1 in 300,000 is your chance to win. But there's something that you could own. Owning real estate is about a 90% bet. Just want you to think about that, because I think it's very important. You know, we talk about Black history, and I'm going to always talk about history because I said we need to do our own history lesson. So for some of you who walk around and say words that you don't know what the words are, I want you to look them up, find out what they mean, find out what they're talking about. So maybe you need to look at the Emancipation Proclamation. You hear it, but do you know what it means? I'm not going to tell you what it means because I want you to do the research. If I say we're familiar with Christmas, you know, you're familiar with all these things, but what about Kwanzaa? What is Kwanzaa? What is it at all? You hear about it. What is it? You need to find out. You know, we talk about actors and actresses, but you know you got to go back to see who some of the trailblazers are. And so I'm going to give you four names tonight for you to look up. Gordon Parks. Well, who was that? Stephen Fletcher. Who was that? Ethel Waters. Who's that? Ruby Dee. Who was that? And I'm going to leave you with Marcus Garvey. Those are the ones that I want you to look at, and I want you to find out who these people are, because they are a part of our legacy. Well, you know, we just celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday. So I'm going to give you 3 quotes before I bring my guest on. Because, you know, he'd have been 95 years old. So he talked about let's make his dream reality. Well, you know, we got a lot of work to still do, and I think that we need to do that. So what kind of quotes I'm going to leave you with Martin Luther King? We need leaders, not in love with money, but in love with justice. Not in love with publicity, but love with humanity. I think that's very important. I think you need to know that. Another one, he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I'll close with this one. The time is always right to do what is right, by Dr. Martin Luther King. So think about this as we celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, but keep in mind we got a long way to go and we got a lot of work to do. And remember, Dr. King talked about all of us working together. It wasn't about this one, it wasn't about that one. Because if you don't have justice for all, then you don't have justice for anybody. Well, tonight I have the fortune of having a young lady on, JASMINE WILLIS. I will say this about her. She's the founder and editor-in-chief of Glowing Girl magazine. That's what she's about now. That's what she's going to talk about. But she's going to talk about more than that, because I've known Jasmine a long time. I've known her a long time, and I've seen her basically grow up. And one of the things I think is very important, and I've always said this while I have this program, is we got to bring people on and let them tell their story. We have to let them develop their narrative. And why do I say that? Because hopefully somebody hears what she has to say tonight, and then maybe they say they can do it. You see, we need to have hope. And you have to have hope, you need vision. And if you need vision, you got to have dreams. And sometimes where you have those dreams, you got to connect to it. Because that's what reality is about. And so that's why I bring all these different kinds of people on, is because I want you to see them because they look just like you and I. Because a lot of times when we watch TV, we don't necessarily see us, or if we see us, it's not always in a positive way. And if you watch the news, well, we know you ain't gonna see much positive. And it's usually 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and they'll say a wonderful thing about you, and then people forget. Because one of the things I do understand, and I'm going to continue to say it, I have taken it on my responsibility to try to help people to understand who we are and what we're about, and let us develop our own narrative. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to ask Jasmine to, first of all, tell us who she is. I know who she is, but tell us who you are.
Well, my name is Jasmine. Born and raised here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I am founder and editor-in-chief of Glowing Girl magazine. But before I'm that, I am a mother. I have an 11-year-old daughter. I'm currently in my master's program, working on my clinical mental health counseling track. I'll be finished in 2025. But yeah, I've been working on this magazine for a solid year, and we're getting the ball rolling.
Okay, so let's start with this here. Your journey. Now let's talk about your journey, because I think that's important.
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
So I graduated from SciTech under the Harrisburg School District in 2007. and I went to Southern University on a track scholarship. I ran my whole 4 years and then got pregnant my senior year and dropped out. Did the stay-at-home mom thing for a while and then moved back home to trying to get my feet wet, get my life back in order, and I went back to school and dropped out again. And I worked for a while, and I saw a need in the mental health world for Black female therapists here locally. So I decided to jump back in, finish my degree up at Millersville in psychology. And then, of course, if you know, in the psych world, in the mental health world, you can't just stop at a bachelor's degree. You have to move on. So I decided to enroll at Messiah, and that's where I'm at now, finishing up my clinical mental health. So yeah, I've had a journey. Did not give up. A lot of really everything I've done since October 18th, 2012 has been solely because of my daughter. So I dedicate a lot to who I am, my growth, my trials and tribulations, to her. And I really do appreciate having my support system, because without them, who knows where I would be. So I think it's really great that I have my community that I can lean on. So yeah, it was a bumpy road. I would not have thought I would be here. That's not what we said earlier about thinking about like what you want to do. You ask kids what they want to be, and they want to be a NBA, NFL. I wanted to be a veterinarian, and then that switched to being a pediatrician, and I couldn't pass the biology course that is like needed in undergrad. So I was like, yeah, this is not for me. And then my advisor threw me in a psych class, and I found love, and that's just where my heartstrings are. So yeah.
So you did not allow any of that to define who you are, but even though you had bumps in the road, you kept going.
Yeah, you got to.
But I think that's very important, because sometimes we feel that when we have a bump, we can't go any further. And that's why I think it's important to have people like you on my program. You never quit. You had a bump, it delayed you, but then you moved on. Then you had another bump, and it delayed you, and you moved on.
Yeah.
And then you had another bump, and you kept moving on. And that's why I think it's very important to have people like you on, so that people can look at you and say, you know what, I had a bump here, I had a bump here. But you don't let it define who you are. And that's why I just think it's so important to have people like you on to tell their story. Yeah. I have people on that have been to prison. I've had people on, all kinds of people on, to tell their story, because there's someone out there just like them. I've known you for a long time, and of course you ran track and you went to Southern, and I know that there were times when you were younger, before you got to college, some days you didn't want to practice. No. Some days you didn't want to mess up your hair.
Yeah.
And some days you didn't want to mess up your nails.
Right.
And people understand those things were very important to you. But at the same time, you knew that you were somebody, and that you were going to be somebody. Yeah. And something that you said, I want to bring back up, because I think it's very important. A lot of times we define who we think we want to be based on our surrounding, based on what we saw on TV, and things of that nature. I mean, when I was growing up, at first I thought I wanted to be Perry Mason. I thought I wanted to be Perry Mason, and I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and I was going to defend everyone.
Right.
And I got out of college and went to law school for a year. I hated it. That's not what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to be in communications. I wanted to go and get maybe a master's or something in communications or whatever, because I thought that was a Buffy thing. But at the time, people told me that I should go to law school. So fortunately, I got in. I got in law school. I did get in. And after my first year, I wrote a letter. And I called it taking a leave of absence. And I wrote this letter to the leave of absence and turned it into the University of Pittsburgh Law School, which they said, okay, you're taking a leave of absence. And I went home and told my father I needed to find who I was. And I have to tell you, it wasn't good.
I was gonna ask.
It
How'd
wasn't
that go?
good. My father said, excuse me? What do you mean you want to find yourself? And of course, times have changed now, because that's like a standard line. So my father thought I had lost my mind and that I was crazy.
My dad too.
And when I
decided to quit track.
he asked you, was you crazy? So sometimes we do things, and sometimes we end up being our own support group. Because,
Very true.
Our own support group, because, people looked at me and said, hey, Richard, a lot of people want to go to law school, but they can't get in. You got in, you did the LSAT, and you did all this here, and you had all the letters, and so you were in. But I did not like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. Now, my life has been very good. I would admit that. My life has been very good, and I've been very blessed. There's no question about that. So I've been good. But it's more important for me to reach back and pull somebody up. And that's one of the reasons why I have this program. Now, so what made you think this magazine was so important that you want to venture out to have this magazine?
Yeah, so like I said, I have a 11-year-old daughter, and growing up, my mother was very open with me, and I think now that I'm a lot older, I think some things I felt like she just kept to herself, but her attitude was, I'd rather you hear it from me first than you hear it from the streets. So I learned about everything you can think of from my mother. And when puberty hit, for me, it wasn't a scary situation. I was celebrated. I was embarrassed. I didn't want her to tell my dad, of course, but he came home with roses, and we went to Red Lobster. So it was celebrated. Womanhood was celebrated in my household. So now that I have an 11-year-old daughter, I want to give her that same experience. But when I was working in these different school districts, as a social worker, I was realizing that I was the one having these conversations with these young girls because no one told them what was happening. So it was a shocker. So just with my daughter, as we are learning things, I've realized there's not a lot of information out there that is appeasing to her. Or makes her want to read it. I remember my mother came home when I was younger with a period book, literally said period with a red dot, and it was so traumatic. I lied and said I read it, didn't read a thing. So when I went online for my daughter, there wasn't really much for her where it looked like her, she would have an interest in it. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna create something. So I had plenty of different ideas before it got to a magazine. I grew up on magazines, Essence, Ebony, Jet, J14, the whole nine. And I thought it'd be really cool to create a magazine, even though I'm not in media whatsoever. I've never written a thing in my life besides a few papers for college. So I went in head first with no idea what I was getting myself into. But the power of social media, the power of TikTok, Google, YouTube University, you can pretty much do a whole lot of things if you put your mind to it.
So you're saying when you have a vision and you have a dream, that one of the things that you're saying, you got to do your homework.
You got to do the work.
You got to do your research. And a lot of times, sometimes, especially in this society today, and some of you young people going to get upset what I'm going to say, but you want instant gratification. You want it now. You don't want to work for it. And that's why I think it's important to have somebody, like I said, like you, or when I had Chris Franklin on this, I always call him the Meadowlark. He is the Meadowlark of the Harlem Globetrotters, and that's why I had him on, because he talked about how he kept shooting basketball at night, shooting basketball, dribbling for a long time. And he had some hiccups too, but then he stayed focused because he had a vision and he had a dream.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because sometimes we need people to give us encouragement. And one of the things I think is very hard is that sometimes we take the safe route, which is nothing wrong with taking the safe route. But sometimes we got to have people that don't want to take the safe route.
Right.
We got to have that. You know, one of my biggest things is I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe that we need to own. I believe that we need to hire. And believe that we need to develop. But in doing that, we need to be exposed to it. And you have to be exposed to it, but at the same time, you know, you need to have encouragement. You know, like, and I'll just say this, and I want people to think about this. You know, don't get upset, audience, what I'm getting ready to say. Sometimes we have a tendency, we'll team up. We can team up to buy alcohol. We could team up to buy tables at a club. We can team up for a lot of things. But some reason, we won't team up to build a business. That's what we got to do. You know, I keep hearing lip service all the time saying, well, you know, crabs in the barrel this and crabs in the barrel that. And I'm not saying there is no such thing as it, because it is. But we have to define ourselves in the community, our neighborhoods, to make it a better, safe place for you and I. So in saying that, so you saw this need of this magazine based on your experience, the fact that you had a mother that was kind of all over you. Because I know your mom, so she was all in your business.
All in my business. Love you, Mom.
Yeah, I know she was in your business. And fortunate, unfortunate, I know her dad. And he just everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, he's everywhere. But you saw that need. Now, and you did your research. You said it took you almost a year?
Well, yeah, I had the idea. I don't know if you remember my restaurant idea. We won't talk about that.
No, we won't talk about your
But it was right after that. And I sat on it probably for a year before I reached out to, there's two people I reached out to. I reached out to Julia Mallory and Cody Burt. Love them. When I decided, you know what, I'm going to go after this. And I got on a call with Julia and she was just like, take your time. Don't rush into it, because in my head, just like you said, like with the young folks, I just knew I was going to be able to do a magazine in like 3 months. And she just really like helped bring me back down. It was like, no, take your time. You're going to have to like really put the work in. So like I really did the work, did a lot of research, networked, definitely used the social media, the platforms, the outlets to kind of get me going. I met my first magazine designer through TikTok. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I have an amazing magazine designer now, Asha, and it's been great. So yeah, I mean, I definitely jumped in thinking that it was going to be like instant gratification, and it's been a full year of like putting in the work and grinding and networking and putting my name out there. I think what a lot of people who have a vision and who are small business, they're kind of shy with sharing what they have going on. And I had to just jump on out there, and I realized that when you share what you're doing, knowing, and you have that confidence behind you, you have to start building your community. And in this year, like, I do think I've built a great community for Glowing Girl magazine, and I'm excited about it.
Something that you said, I think it's very important that we have to start to mentor, but at the same time, we have to start networking. And we have to start networking with people that can help someone get to the next level.
Yeah.
You know, you've come to me several times and with many business ideas.
Yeah.
I've never ever told you what you couldn't do. I've told you, fine, but these are the things that you have to do.
Right.
And I've always been a person, and I've always tried to get my information or my networking or people that I know to help other people. You know, I've had people come to me and say, oh, I want to be a real estate this year. Or they may have an idea that they may want to be a real estate agent because they watch TV. So they think it's easy. Now, I've been very fortunate because I have a good friend. His name is Joe Tarantino, and he's the head of the Real Estate Commission of Pennsylvania. But I've been able to call him up, ask him questions, and let him talk to people so he could share their experience with them. But it's about networking. It's about friendships. And I think that we have to do that all over the board. If somebody wants to be a doctor, don't you think it's maybe we might open up to them and say, hey, I want to be a doctor? So they can understand what it is. But maybe they may need to know down the road, well, these are the courses that you need to take so that you can be prepared to be a doctor. Or this is what you got to do. People think, I had a young man who told me he wanted to flip houses because he watched TV. Oh, you want to flip houses? Well, you got to have money to buy the house, and you got to have money to flip the house. But he didn't see that on TV. He only saw the good picture. And I'm hoping from this program that a lot of you out there, especially people my age, you have a lot of people out there that we know that are in these businesses. And it behooves us to bring young people in to let them have an opportunity to talk to people that's successful. See, you can always get the group that's negative, but you can't always get the group that is positive. And so that's why there's so many people out there just doing so many things that we want to share, because there's no reason for you to have 10 bumps when really, if we could stop it at 5, because we don't want to discourage you. So I'm glad that you put the work in. We need to support it. Hopefully it'll be successful, and that's a good thing. So, audience out there, you have young people out there that have these visions and have these dreams, and so we need to encourage them. We need to tell them it takes a lot of work. Just like they work on their basketball game, just like they work on their football, all professions you gotta work at. The key is no matter what you do, it doesn't make a difference. Even if you're a sanitation worker, you want to be the best at it. Because understand, if we didn't have no sanitation workers, we would be in trouble. And that's why I always tell people, don't look down at no one, because we all bring something to the table. Some small, some larger. But we are all human beings. Well, let's talk about some other things too. I understand that you got some kind of fair coming up.
Yes.
Tell the audience what you got going on.
So, we're launching our magazine in March. So I decided to start hosting events to prepare for that launch, get the community engaged. So we are having our first wellness event. It's called New Year, New Glow. It is this Saturday from 10 to 2. Now it is a sold out event, so tickets have already been purchased. And it's going to be a good time. We have a fitness instructor. We have yoga. We also have mindfulness, meditation, journaling. And then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to hop into our panel discussion. And we have a Black female OBGYN, Dr. Wright. We have a mental health therapist, Dr. Bryant. We have an esthetician, Reg, and then we have a nutritionist, Ms. Kristen. So yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm excited for it. It's this Saturday for girls between the age of 10 and 18. We have some really great sponsors: Pattern Beauty, Highmark Whole Care, Vita Coco, Flow for the Love of Women, Pink Lomaine. So it's gonna be a great event. I'm excited.
And you saw the need to have these. Why?
Well, we don't have any. I mean, I not say we don't have any. We do, but I feel like I haven't seen where it's just for the girls. I've seen it where, the mothers, the aunts, the aunties, can come in with the girls, but I just wanted to have a community just for the girls. And then I go to big events, and I see these type of things happening for the adults, my age, and it's a fun time. So I'm like, why not bring the same thing to the city, but for our girls? So hopefully I can give them that same experience. We go to these, these expos and these Essence festivals. Why not bring something similar to Harrisburg?
That's good. I want to go back to something I said earlier, is because I think it's important to emphasize we know people, people. Everybody knows people across the board, and we got to start networking with them. And we got to allow them to come into our lives to help people. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we don't do that, then shame on us. If somebody wants to be a boxer, they need to sit down and talk to the promoter. They need to talk to somebody that's a boxing trainer. Yeah. You have in Harrisburg, you got a number. You got Jason Bryan that trains people to be fighters. Well, that's good. We need someone, if that's what you want to do. If you want to be into ministry, you need to start to get involved with the people in the church. You need to get involved with people to kind of figure out where you want to go and how you want to do it. Because what happens is we get frustrated. Mm-hmm. And when you get frustrated, you back off.
Yeah.
Because, no pun intended, most people want to see people that are successful. Because we hear a lot. I hear a lot of talking, but I don't see a lot of walking. Mm-hmm. They talk a good game, but when time to play the game, they ain't nowhere to be found. And that can be very frustrating. That's why I even brought up the real estate, because what's good is that if the knowledge is there, but you don't take someone that knows it to help people. Yeah. It's funny because I'm telling you, all you got to do, all of you got friends out there that's in all kinds of professions. All you got to do is call them up and say, hey, I have a young person that wants to be in the restaurant business. We all know owners that own restaurants. And I'm sure maybe they need to understand it ain't as easy as they think it is. Mm-hmm. I hear guys all the time telling me that they want to be car dealers. I get it. I want to sell cars. Well, you got to have a license to sell cars. You do know that, right? You got to be a dealer, all those things. You got to keep the paperwork. You know, I tell people this all the time. You want to be things, no problem being what you want to be, but you need to prepare for it and do it right.
That also comes with confidence too.
I understand confidence. Okay, what do you mean by confidence? Tell me what you mean.
Because you have to have confidence to go after what you want. And if I wasn't secure in my vision and what I wanted to do, I wouldn't have shared it. But I was confident in what I had in my back pocket. So I wanted to dish that out. And that started with getting on the phone and talking to people that were writers, that were creatives, putting myself in rooms with people who were creatives. I went to CultureCon, and I swear that was like a blessing in disguise. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I lie. I did know what I was getting myself into because I went in there with a mission. I knew that I wanted to look a certain way. I knew I wanted to do live interviews with those who were there and share my magazine and what my vision was. And through those live interviews, I met some amazing women that worked for those big companies that are now sponsoring my event. And if I didn't have the confidence to do that, then I would have been frustrated. I would have given up because I would have been in my head. So I think as much as, yes, it's getting on the phone and calling, but you also have to be able to have the confidence within yourself to know that you can do it. And I think that's a big thing. It goes hand in hand, because you couldn't tell me in New York that I was not editor-in-chief, founder of Glow and Grow magazine. I walked that walk, I talked the talk, I felt that. And I think that's why CultureCon was such a blessing for me, because I did what I had to do. I did the work, and I came back, made the connections, sent out emails, follow-ups, and really went after what I wanted and still going after it.
I think what you just said, now as you were saying, I was thinking about confidence. And confidence is something that I think that we have to take a much more stronger look at, because we've all been through the naysayers. I've been through naysayers. When I first was going to start the Central Pennsylvania Black Directory, I was told, don't do it. It ain't going to go nowhere. It ain't going to do this. It's not going to do that. Fortunately, I'm in my 13th year. Now, I would admit that I'm the one that had the belief in myself that we can make it happen. Now, I was fortunate because I had some friends who talked me into it. Connie Portis out of Pittsburgh, she had the Western Pennsylvania, she had the Black Directory, and we were friends, so she kind of like talked me and walked me through it. And then I just so happened to have a woman here named Marsha Blessing, is a publisher, and we got together and we worked together, and she helped me and we put it together. You see, that's why I say it's important that you share all your information to help people out, because sometimes people need confidence.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people have to touch stuff and have to feel stuff. And that's why I'm saying we know all kinds of people across the board. We have to utilize them, all of them. You see, we can't get hung up on color. We can't get hung up on ethnicity. We can't get hung up on all those things, because I said a few minutes ago, everybody brings something to the table.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get from point A to point B, you need those building blocks. So you go wherever you can to get those building blocks to help you become successful. Because we have to make sure, and I've said this and I will continue to say it's just like politics. I tell people, you vote for the person who is going to benefit what you want and what you believe in. That's what I believe in. I don't believe in all this, because of this. No, you're going to go with who's going to look out for your best interest. If they don't look out for your best interest, they got to go. No matter who they are, they got to go. and I've become that way. But like you said, confidence. So how do we build confidence? We build confidence, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. We build some confidence on being around people who want to do the same thing. Would you agree with that?
I will agree with that.
Because the same thing that you want to do. So if you want to be an artist, you go somewhere where everybody's painting because that's what you want to do. But the problem is sometimes we don't have the confidence because two reasons. Either we don't know nobody that's already doing it, or we don't have anybody encouraging us.
Yeah.
That's why we got to have hopes and dreams. We need to be ralliers. We need to be cheerleaders. We need to tell young people to help them fulfill their dreams. Because a lot of times, and I hear this all the time, and growing up in the neighborhood, sometimes there's not a lot of role models. But there are role models out there somewhere. And so young people or older people, we need to learn to connect to help one another out. You know, that's why I always say to people all the time, it's no problem for young people to walk past and see a senior citizen and say, hey, how you doing? You assume they may have a family, but they may not. You assume they may feel lonely, but maybe it's okay to say, hey, how you doing today? It's also for older people to stop looking at young people like they don't know what they're doing. They all rude, they're all that. That's not true. And we need to encourage young people to take the step up. Even though we may have never had the opportunity for a lot of reasons, a lot of us didn't have opportunities for a lot of things. But now we can kind of work on it. So like you said, do some research. All of you got TikTok or whatever, you can go in there and ask how to become this or how to become that. But you got to stay on it. And sometimes I do know that people have dreams and they have visions, but they're afraid to share it because they think somebody's going to laugh at them, or they think that somebody's going to think that they're not capable. I asked you, audience, we have to start encouraging young people, period. You know, sometimes I think the older group is the ones that got the hang-ups. I don't think young people have the hang-ups that we have. I'm amazed at it. I see how all these things are going on. But yet when I go to sporting events, music events or whatever, restaurants, we all in there together. We all eating, drinking, whatever. We all there together. Especially young people. They play all kinds of sports. They don't know about a lot of that foolishness because they heard that foolishness from an adult on all sides. So I'm saying to my audience, let's step up the game and let's be positive and let's encourage people to follow their dreams and their hopes. Because, you know, I had an opportunity to help a few people out that were homeless. Well, guess what? It's no fault of theirs, but we need to help them get out of that cycle because they want out of that cycle, and to help them so they can have hope. They can have beliefs. People don't understand if you don't have no mom, you don't have no dad, you don't have no especially grandma and grandfathers like we used to have, or neighborhoods. You know, we used to have neighborhoods and everybody would know what was going on. And we all can laugh at this, and there was always a nosy neighbor that knew everything about everything and told everything. We don't really have that anymore. But I think that what we got to do, and whether it's churches, whether it's YMCAs, whether it's social organizations, we have to become much more warm, kinder, and gentler to young people. And as you say, we need to figure out a way. Tell me this. You say we need to figure out a way so they can have some kind of confidence. Mm-hmm. What do you suggest that some of the things that we should, because I see it all the time, because I've heard it. I've been told many times in my life that I wasn't going to be this and I wasn't going to be that. And I could have allowed it to define me. And there's a lot of them out there that it's defined them. They believe they ain't going to be nothing. They ain't going to be about nothing. Everybody can be about something. Mm-hmm. So from your view, what do you think that we should do, that you tell my audience that you think that we should do to try to help one another?
Well, going back to the confidence, I think my confidence helps from my childhood, with how I was raised. My parents may not have agreed with every idea or every path that I've taken, but they've always encouraged and helped build me up, even when I felt my lowest, right? And I feel like now that I am an adult and I'm raising a little girl, I think it's important that you pour into, your children. It's important to pour into those around you. I leave notes for myself in my bathroom, in my room, letting me know like I'm valued, I'm beautiful, you got this, just quick reminders, because when you get so wrapped up in life and just everything that comes with it, you tend to lose focus of your vision of who you are. And sometimes just quickly reminding yourself, like, I'm that, like, I'm all that in a bag of barbecue chips, Middlesworth to be exact, And I think that's where it comes from. It comes from people around you pouring into you, pouring into yourself, you pouring into your loved ones. Journaling is really big for me. I write everything down, and I keep it near and dear, because I'm able to go back and look at my thoughts and where I was and where I am now. So that's also a confidence booster. So I don't know, I've been on a journey since I had Courtney, just to better myself mentally, physically, emotionally. So I think I've had that, and that entrepreneur hat is something new. So I've had to, on those days where I'm frustrated or I feel like, this person not emailing me back, I don't got the money for this, I know it's coming, you got it, it's already yours, it's already in your pocket, it's already in your bank account.
Okay, let me ask you this. What do you say to people that don't have a support group like you? What do you say to a person that didn't have a mother, didn't have a father, or just live in a house that's unfunctional, or maybe even live in their car? What do you suggest that we can do, or what do you think that we should say to give them confidence?
I think the biggest thing is you just have to dig inside of you. Like, anything you want, it's already in you. You just have to see it for yourself.
So you're saying, I'm trying to, so you're saying that when there's no support group there, then the support has to come from Enter?
Yeah, who else is going to do it?
Okay, but how do you come up with that, and where do you get the encouragement? So you're saying that, I'm just asking, you're saying that people have to believe, the first step is to believe in yourself?
Yeah. That's the step.
It's a step, I agree, but it's hard to believe in yourself when everybody telling you you ain't gonna be much of anything.
You gotta stop talking to them.
Okay.
I've made my circle very tight, right? Because when I've shared magazines about what I wanted to do, I didn't have everyone in my corner. Some people comments just left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, oh, all right, I already know what that is. So I removed them. So I only talk about the ins and outs of my magazine with like 3 people because I have to keep myself surrounded by people that are going to rally around me. And then I also have to make sure that I'm rallying for myself, because how can I depend on other people to pour into me if I'm not pouring into myself? So that's all I got for them.
So
gotta do it.
okay, so you're saying that you want people around you that are positive. I totally agree with you.
Right.
And so you also saying, this is what I'm, that you have to believe in self.
Right.
And if nobody else believes in you, you have to believe in yourself.
Right.
And don't allow no naysayers and negative people influence where you go in the big picture. Right?
Right. And if it's really a struggle, because I am in the mental health world, go to therapy. If that's another route you need to take, just because everything is just so chaotic and you just can't think straight. If you have to go into therapy, do that.
So
Because at the
you,
end of the day, it's gonna better yourself. There's yoga, there's mindful meditation, go to the gym, find an outlet. But you also have to. It starts with you. before it starts
okay,
with anybody else.
okay, you said it starts with you. So you're saying, okay, you can go to your minister, you can go to the church, you can go to the Y, you can go to the school, but try to find someone that is positive, that can be your beacon. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and hold you accountable.
And hold you accountable. And that's very important, because a lot of times we have not held people accountable. And now we're coming to a term in our life that I think it's very important that we start to champion and be positive for young people. We got to do that. We have to do that, because young people are our future. Would you agree?
Totally.
Well, you know, this is going fast, so you got 2 minutes here to tell my audience whatever you want to tell them.
So Glow and Grow magazine is going to be launching in March. It will be print as well as digital. Our website is launching on Wednesday, so you can go ahead and start getting on our mailing list. And I'm excited for New Year, New Glow coming Saturday. So all my glowing girls, be prepared. We got something great in store for y'all.
Okay, and I think I want to end this with a couple thoughts. One of my thoughts is that we have to take our friendships and people that we know and share our information so that young people can experience whatever somebody wants to do. So if they want to be into the restaurant business, we need to find ways so that they can talk to somebody that maybe runs a successful restaurant or real estate, or that they want to be doctors or nurses. Get some exposure to it. And we know somebody knows someone out there. That's number 2. The other thing is, there's no question that everybody out there is not doing good. But we need to look out for them. We need to say hello to senior citizens. Have a good day. We people who are older need to stop smirking at young people and encourage them and tell them everything gonna be all right in terms of where they want to go. So I'm gonna leave my audience with this. It's not about us pouring water on people's dreams and hopes. We need to encourage it. The other thing is, remember, everybody doesn't have a support group. They really don't. They're looking for a beacon. And maybe when you see someone out there, you may want to be the beacon for them. Because if you make any changes or you help anybody in life along the way, then you have done something. So thank you for tuning in tonight to another Did You Know? And as I've always said, you can, if you believe it and you think it, then you can do it. Good evening.
Thank you for joining the Richard Utley Show on The Voice 17104. We will be here on The Voice 17104 every first and third Tuesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Once again, thanks for viewing. Remember to visit us on Facebook at Richard Utley, and we welcome your questions and or comments.